Penn Badgley, the actor best known for his roles in Gossip Girl and Netflix's psychological thriller You, found himself at the center of unexpected controversy during a recent appearance on the Jennifer Hudson show. What was initially intended as a light-hearted promotional segment to discuss his career and upcoming projects spiraled into a heated on-air exchange that stunned the live studio audience. Reports from those present indicate that the conversation began innocently but quickly escalated into a debate touching on sensitive topics. The clash between Penn and Jennifer reached a breaking point, and producers were forced to intervene, resulting in Penn being asked to leave the stage before the show wrapped. This dramatic turn of events has since ignited discussions online. Viewers who tuned in to watch Penn Badgley were expecting the usual mix of candid anecdotes, laughter, and charm that the Jennifer Hudson show typically delivers. However, what they witnessed was entirely different. Sources close to the production have revealed that the tension began simmering when Jennifer raised a question about the portrayal of toxic male characters in popular media, directly referencing Penn's infamous role as Joe Goldberg. While Jennifer's inquiry appeared to be rooted in curiosity, Penn reportedly interpreted it as a critique of his work. His response carried a sharper edge than expected, and what might have been a playful debate transformed into a pointed exchange, with both celebrities unwilling to back down. The studio audience initially thought the back and forth was part of a scripted bit, considering Penn's reputation for witty interviews and Jennifer's talent for keeping conversations engaging. However, as their voices grew firmer and their body language more rigid, it became clear that the disagreement was genuine. Jennifer, ever confident, pressed Penn about whether he believed his role might glamorize stalking or unhealthy relationships. Penn, defending his artistic integrity, argued that audiences should distinguish between fiction and reality. The friction intensified as each statement added fuel to the fire, drawing audible gasps from the crowd who realized they were witnessing a live clash that wasn't part of the entertainment plan. Penn Badgley, clearly frustrated by the framing of the question, reminded Jennifer and the audience that his role as Joe Goldberg was intentionally crafted as a critique of obsession and toxic behaviors, not a glorification of them. He emphasized the responsibility of viewers to consume media thoughtfully, rather than blaming actors for the actions of their characters. Jennifer, however, countered that media shapes perception, and actors who play such roles should be conscious of the influence they wield. This ideological divide created a visible rift, with Jennifer passionately defending her point and Penn growing more defensive by the minute. The tone in the room shifted from lively to uncomfortable, as murmurs spread through the crowd. Attempting to ease the tension, Jennifer tried redirecting the conversation toward Penn's broader career and achievements outside of You. She asked about his early years on Gossip Girl and how that fame influenced his personal growth. Yet, instead of calming down, Penn circled back to the prior topic, insisting that his career should not be reduced to moral debates about fictional characters. He pointedly remarked that actors are often unfairly judged, while audiences absolve themselves of responsibility for how they interpret art. Jennifer, who is known for her empathetic style, seemed taken aback by Penn's unwillingness to move on, which only deepened the divide. The audience, caught between intrigue and discomfort, leaned forward, sensing the clash was far from over. Behind the scenes, producers began signaling to each other as the tension escalated. The show's team is accustomed to handling live conversations that drift off course, but this particular disagreement was quickly spiraling beyond control. Jennifer, maintaining her composure, reminded Penn that her show was built on open dialogue and respect. But Penn, feeling cornered, retorted that respect was a two-way street and that framing his work through a lens of moral responsibility was unfair. The air grew heavy, the smiles faded, and the clash transitioned from spirited debate to visible hostility. Audience members reported feeling second-hand embarrassment as the two stars locked horns with neither yielding ground. Matters escalated when Jennifer, in an attempt to lighten the mood, made a half-joking remark about Joe Goldberg being too convincing for comfort. Penn did not take the comment lightly, responding curtly that it was precisely this kind of flippant remark that undermined the artistic effort put into challenging narratives. His sharp tone surprised Jennifer, who raised her eyebrows and reminded him that humor often helps audiences digest heavier conversations. Penn's stern rebuttal created a palpable silence, broken only by scattered gasps. The tension was undeniable, and the friendly talk show environment felt more like a debate stage where neither participant was willing to concede. At this point, Jennifer shifted gears, suggesting that Penn might be overly sensitive about criticism related to his character. Penn, visibly bristling, countered that he had spent years enduring misinterpretations of his work and was tired of having his intentions misunderstood. He explained that interviews often pigeonhole him into defending Joe Goldberg rather than celebrating the broader scope of his career. Jennifer, standing her ground, argued that as long as the role remained culturally significant, questions about its impact were valid. The exchange highlighted not only a professional disagreement but also a fundamental clash in perspective, one rooted in artistic defense and the other in cultural responsibility. The live audience, unsure of how to respond, began to shift uncomfortably in their seats. Laughter that once filled the studio was replaced by hushed whispers. Some audience members nodded in agreement with Jennifer's points, while others sympathized with Penn's frustration. The producers, recognizing the growing unease, attempted to cut to a commercial break earlier than scheduled. However, Penn, still mid-response, refused to pause his argument. This refusal only heightened the sense of discord, and Jennifer's patience began to wear thin. What started as a conversation about acting had now turned into a standoff with no easy resolution in sight. By the time the cameras resumed after the break, the atmosphere had shifted drastically. Jennifer attempted once again to smooth things over, thanking Penn for his candor and praising his acting skills. However, Penn appeared distant, his tone clipped and defensive. When Jennifer asked if he felt proud of how his roles had sparked public dialogue, Penn sarcastically replied that being misunderstood was hardly a point of pride. The remark drew gasps and a few awkward chuckles from the audience, who sensed the underlying hostility. Jennifer, choosing diplomacy, smiled, but her tone carried an edge when she reminded Penn that her show prioritized positive energy. The tension didn't go unnoticed by the show's crew, who were whispering frantically behind the cameras, trying to decide how to de-escalate the situation. Jennifer, realizing the audience's unease, tried steering the discussion toward Penn's advocacy work, particularly his involvement in social causes. But Penn, still visibly unsettled, brushed off the attempt and returned to the prior dispute. He argued that actors are unfairly scapegoated for societal issues they didn't create. Jennifer, no longer concealing her frustration, raised her voice slightly, telling Penn that her job as a host was to ask the questions people at home were already wondering. The clash now seemed personal, and the usual warm talk show atmosphere was gone. Audience members later described the exchange as unlike anything they had ever seen on daytime television. Jennifer's reputation for calm professionalism contrasted sharply with Penn's defensive posture, creating a scene that felt almost surreal. As Penn leaned forward in his chair, gesturing emphatically, Jennifer sat back with crossed arms, her face a mix of disappointment and determination. The power dynamic shifted to what was once a friendly host and guest dialogue had become a battle of ideologies. Producers began signaling to cut Penn's segment short, but Penn's ongoing responses made it clear that ending smoothly would be a challenge. Jennifer, trying one final time to regain control, asked Penn if he could acknowledge that portraying disturbing characters might carry unintended consequences. Penn, his tone firm, replied that audiences should be capable of critical thinking, and if they chose to idolize a fictional stalker, the blame did not lie with him. Jennifer's face hardened as she retorted that public figures can't simply wash their hands of influence. This remark drew loud reactions from the crowd, some clapping in support of Jennifer, others murmuring sympathetically toward Pennsylvania. What should have been a promotional conversation was now a philosophical showdown being broadcast live. At this point, the segment had run far beyond its scheduled time. The producers, sensing no end in sight, approached Jennifer during a brief lull and suggested wrapping things up. Jennifer agreed, but when she attempted to thank Penn for joining the show, he interrupted with another lengthy rebuttal. His refusal to allow closure tested Jennifer's patience, and for the first time, Her frustration was evident. She leaned forward and firmly told Penn that the show needed to move on, but he continued to speak over her. The moment shocked viewers who were used to Penn's composed demeanor in interviews. The live audience gasped as Jennifer's professionalism gave way to assertiveness. She raised her hand, signaling for Penn to stop, and said clearly that the discussion had run its course. Penn, unwilling to let go, insisted he deserved to finish his point. Jennifer, maintaining eye contact, calmly but firmly told him that respect for the show's format was non-negotiable. The clash of wills was undeniable, and the tension reached its peak. Within seconds, stage managers stepped forward, and though subtle, their presence underscored the seriousness of the situation. Penn finally leaned back in his chair, but the damage had already been done. After a tense pause, Jennifer attempted to salvage the moment with a diplomatic closing, thanking Penn again and pivoting to the next segment. But Penn, visibly annoyed, muttered something under his breath that was picked up faintly by the microphones. Though unclear, the remark drew audible ooze from the audience and visibly irritated Jennifer. The producers made the swift decision to cut to commercial, but not before Jennifer, with remarkable composure, reminded the audience that disagreements are part of conversation, yet respect must always be maintained. The studio applauded her, though the energy was noticeably fractured. When the cameras were off, the backstage atmosphere grew chaotic. Crew members approached Penn, urging him to leave the stage quietly to prevent further disruption. Sources later revealed that Penn resisted at first, arguing that he had been disrespected. Jennifer, remaining at her desk, reportedly shook her head in disbelief at how the interview had unraveled. Audience members were kept seated while the situation was handled, but whispers spread like wildfire. Within minutes, Penn was escorted out of the studio, marking a rare and dramatic moment in daytime talk show history. By the time the show returned from commercial, Penn was gone. Jennifer, regaining her composure, addressed the audience directly. She acknowledged that conversations can become heated but emphasized the importance of maintaining dignity and positivity. Her ability to pivot back into her usual warm hosting style drew admiration from many, though the shock of what had just happened lingered in the room. Clips of the incident would later surface online, spreading rapidly across social media platforms. Fans and critics alike debated the exchange, with opinions sharply divided over who was in the right. The fallout was immediate. On Twitter, hashtags related to the clash began trending within hours. Some users criticized Penn for being overly defensive and disrespectful toward Jennifer, while others defended him, arguing that Jennifer's questions felt accusatory. The polarized reactions created a digital storm, with thousands of comments dissecting every word and gesture. Memes, GIFs, and video clips circulated at lightning speed, ensuring that the confrontation would not be forgotten anytime soon. For Penn, the incident threatened to overshadow his promotional efforts for upcoming projects. For Jennifer, it was a test of her ability to navigate live controversy. Entertainment journalists quickly picked up the story, framing it as one of the most dramatic moments on daytime television in recent memory. Headlines described Penn being kicked off the show, though insiders clarified that he had been asked to leave rather than physically removed. Still, the narrative of a dramatic exit captured public attention. Analysts debated whether this clash would harm Penn's reputation or if it would instead paint him as a passionate actor standing by his beliefs. Meanwhile, Jennifer's reputation for professionalism only grew stronger, with many praising her for handling the situation gracefully. In the days that followed, Penn remained silent, refraining from making any immediate public statements. His silence only fueled speculation, as fans and critics alike wondered whether he regretted his behavior. Jennifer, on the other hand, subtly addressed the incident in a later episode of her show, reiterating that her platform was built on respect and dialogue. She didn't mention Penn by name but noted that sometimes guests come with unexpected energy that challenges the flow of the program. Her words were interpreted as a dignified response, striking a balance between acknowledgement and moving forward. Social media discourse continued, with some fans expressing disappointment in Penn's inability to separate character critique from personal attack. Others argued that Jennifer could have phrased her questions differently, suggesting she might have been too blunt. Regardless of perspective, The incident became a talking point not just about celebrity behavior but also about the broader cultural debate over media responsibility. Scholars and pop culture critics chimed in, highlighting how this clash reflected larger tensions between art, interpretation, and accountability in the entertainment industry. As the debate raged on, clips of the confrontation were replayed across television and online platforms. Late-night hosts even referenced the incident, with some making light-hearted jokes about talk show drama escalating into full-blown arguments. Despite the humor, it was clear that the event had struck a nerve. Viewers weren't just entertained, they were divided. Some felt sympathy for Penn's frustration, believing he was tired of being typecast in interviews. Others felt Jennifer had every right to ask tough questions, as her job was to voice what fans wanted to know. The discourse showed no signs of slowing. Eventually, Penn broke his silence in an Instagram post. He expressed respect for Jennifer and her platform but admitted that the interview had triggered deep frustrations about his career being reduced to one role. He explained that while he understood the public fascination with Joe Goldberg, he hoped to be recognized for the broader range of his work and contributions. The post was received with mixed reactions. Some praised him for honesty, while others criticized the lack of a direct apology for how he behaved during the show. Nonetheless, his acknowledgement helped cool the firestorm. Jennifer responded subtly, liking a fan comment that praised her for handling the situation with grace. Though she never directly replied to Penn's post, the gesture was enough for many to see it as a quiet olive branch. Industry insiders suggested that both sides had little interest in prolonging the feud. Still, the tension left a lasting impression, and discussions continued about how celebrities and talk show hosts navigate the thin line between tough questioning and perceived disrespect. The clash, while uncomfortable, highlighted the challenges of live television in an era of instant viral moments. Over time, the incident began to shift from controversy to cultural talking point. Commentators revisited the exchange to examine deeper issues of why society idolizes problematic characters, how actors balance art with accountability, and the expectations placed on talk show hosts to entertain while addressing serious questions. Though many agreed the clash was unfortunate, it undeniably sparked important conversations. The buzz even led to higher ratings for Jennifer's show in subsequent weeks, proving that controversy, while risky, often fuels curiosity and viewership. For Penn, the incident became both a challenge and an opportunity. While some critics labeled him difficult, others respected his refusal to back down on matters of artistic integrity. He later used interviews on other platforms to elaborate on his perspective, this time with a calmer tone. He stressed that while he values discussion about representation, he hopes those conversations are balanced with recognition of actors as professionals rather than scapegoats. This reframed narrative helped soften the backlash and reminded fans of his thoughtful, introspective side. Jennifer, meanwhile, solidified her reputation as a host who could handle adversity with dignity. Industry peers commended her ability to keep the show moving despite the disruption, and her commitment to respect as a core value resonated with audiences. Though the clash with Penn was jarring, it also reinforced her image as a strong, principled figure in daytime television. Behind the scenes, her team reportedly reviewed protocols for handling difficult interviews, ensuring that future disruptions could be contained more swiftly without compromising the show's integrity. As weeks turned into months, the incident faded from the headlines, but its legacy lingered. Fans continued referencing it online, sometimes as a meme, sometimes as a reminder of how unpredictable live television can be. For Penn and Jennifer, the clash served as a defining moment, albeit in different ways. For Penn, it was a lesson in media dynamics and public perception. For Jennifer, it was proof of her resilience as a host. Both figures moved forward with their careers, but the memory of that fiery interview remained etched in pop culture lore. In the end, the confrontation between Penn Badgley and Jennifer Hudson became more than just a fleeting viral moment. It was a reflection of the complexities of art, accountability, and public discourse. While Penn may have been asked to leave the show, his passionate defense of his craft highlighted the emotional toll of constant scrutiny. Jennifer's poise under pressure showcased the strength required to helm a talk show in the spotlight. The clash was messy, dramatic, and at times uncomfortable, but it left audiences with a story they would not soon forget. And in the world of entertainment, sometimes the most unscripted moments are the ones that define careers.